Almost every conversation I have about residency starts the same way. Somebody asks me which state saves them the most on taxes. And I get it. That's the version of this everybody talks about. No state income tax. Keep more of your money. Done. But here's what I've learned after helping a lot of people actually do this. The people who chose their residency purely to dodge taxes are almost always the ones who run into trouble later. Not because the tax savings weren't real, they usually were, because taxes were the only thing they were looking at. So in this video, I want to walk you through the mistake I see more than almost any other, treating residency like it's just a tax move. Residency is not a loophole. It's the legal foundation your whole life sits on when you don't have a traditional home. Your driver's license, your vehicle, your insurance, your voting, your mail, where you can be treated at a hospital, how you get a jury summons, all of it traces back to one question: where do you legally live? Get that foundation right, and everything gets simpler. Treat it like a tax hack, and you can end up with savings on paper and a mess everywhere else. Let me show you what I mean. I talked with a gentleman last year who did everything he read about online. He picked a no income tax state, got the address, felt great about the money he was going to save. Then his auto insurance renewal came up. His policy was still tied to his old state, at his old rates, and when he tried to move it, the company wanted proof of where he actually lived now. He had an address, but he hadn't done any of the pieces underneath it. No license in the new state. No vehicle registration. Nothing that tied the two together. It took him about 6 weeks to untangle. 6 weeks of phone calls, of being quoted the wrong rates, of one company asking for a document another company hadn't given him yet. And the thing he said to me at the end stuck with me. He said, "I saved a couple $1,000s in taxes, and I would have paid that just to skip the headache." He wasn't wrong about the savings. He was just only looking at one number. Here's why this happens so often. When you make residency a tax decision, you optimize for one thing and you stop looking at everything else. And residency isn't one thing, it's a stack. On top, you've got the part everybody sees, taxes. Underneath that, you've got your driver's license and your vehicle registration. Under that, your insurance, which quietly depends on both. Under that, your banking, your voter registration, your mail, your legal address for anything official that ever needs to reach you. Here's why this happens so often. When you make residency a tax decision, you optimize for one thing and you stop looking at everything else. And residency isn't one thing, it's a stack. On top, you've got the part everybody sees, taxes. Underneath that, you've got your driver's license and your vehicle registration. Under that, your insurance, which quietly depends on both. Under that, your banking, your voter registration, your mail, your legal address for anything official that ever needs to reach you. Every one of those layers assumes the layers under it are solid. When you only fix the top layer, the address, and skip the rest, the whole stack wobbles. And it usually doesn't wobble the day you set it up. It wobbles 6 months later, at the worst possible time, when you're filing a claim or renewing something, or a piece of mail you needed never arrives. The tax savings are real. They're just the reward for doing this correctly, not the reason to do it. So let me reframe the whole thing, because I think the reframe is what actually protects people. Residency is not where you save money. Residency is where you legally exist. It's the answer to a question the world is going to ask you over and over once you leave a traditional home behind. Every serious institution in your life, your bank, your insurer, the DMV, the IRS, a hospital, eventually needs one clean answer to, where do you live? If you have one clear, consistent, documented answer, life is smooth. If your answer is fuzzy, or it's different depending on which form you're filling out, that's where the friction lives. The mistake isn't choosing a low-tax state. A low-tax state can be a great choice. The mistake is choosing it for the tax number and never building the rest of the foundation underneath it. And when you flip your thinking this way, something nice happens. You stop asking which state saves me the most, and you start asking which state makes the rest of my life simplest to run. That is a much better question. And honestly, it usually points you somewhere good anyway. So here's the order I'd actually think in if it were me. Start with the foundation, not the savings. Pick where you're going to legally live based on which state makes your whole life easiest to run. The paperwork, the DMV rules, the vehicle rules, how easy it is to actually establish. The tax situation is one input into that, not the whole decision. Then, set up your legal address before you need it, not after. This is the piece everything else is going to ask you for, so it goes early. Then handle the license and the vehicle, in whatever order the state requires, because sometimes one depends on the other. Then update insurance and banking and voting to match, all pointing at the same clean answer. Do it in that order, and each step feeds the next one. The tax savings still show up. They just show up on top of a foundation that actually holds, instead of being the only brick you laid. And this is the part where what we do quietly fits in. So let me be plain about it. Most of what I just described, the address, the residency guidance, the mail that ties all 4 layers together, that's exactly the part we handle for people every single day. Not because it's hard, because it's the boring foundational stuff that's easy to get in the wrong order when you're doing it alone from the internet. We're not a tax service, and I'd never tell you to choose a place just for the tax number. What we are is the steady piece underneath, the address and the residency setup that everything else hooks onto. So the whole stack holds together and you can stop thinking about it. When you're ready for that part, that's us. But the thinking comes first, and that part is yours. So if you take one thing from this, let it be this. Residency isn't a tax trick. It's the legal ground your whole location-independent life stands on. The savings are real, but they're the reward for building the foundation right, not a reason to skip it. Ask the better question. Not which state saves me the most, but which state makes the rest of my life simplest to run. Almost everyone who asks it that way ends up in a stronger spot and usually saves the money anyway. And this is just the first mistake in a whole series of them, because I've watched good, smart people make the same handful of expensive missteps over and over on the way to this life. If you're just starting your freedom journey, I've put together a free Freedom Starter checklist. You can download it using the link below. Until next time, keep building a life defined by freedom, not by a zip code.